For the past 6 million years, volcanoes have been reshaping the face of northern Arizona. And from Williams to Flagstaff, for 50 miles, this volcanic field creates a mountain range that we're going to go exploring today. Most people think of volcanoes, they're going to think of Hawaii. Here in northern Arizona, we don't really have any active volcanoes, but you can still see the remnants of their eruptions. Around 700,000 years ago, a volcanic vent about 5 miles from here started erupting. And it was very similar to the volcanic islands in Hawaii. The Hawaiian Islands are built of a series of shield volcanoes, which is a kind of volcano that most people kind of picture when they think about volcanic eruptions. It's a low viscosity lava that when it erupts from the ground, it flows almost like a river of water downhill, following the path of least resistance. As that molten lava erupts onto the surface and encounters atmospheric pressures and temperatures, it will cool down very rapidly. And that rapid cooling creates almost a new ground level. So can you see here where these hills are coming down and they're all made of this kind of black chunky rock? This is that volcanic basalt that 700,000 years ago was flowing downhill here in northern Arizona. So as you're traveling through volcanically active areas, you can start to look for these rocks. And volcanic rocks are what you would call igneous rocks. They're very hard, dense rocks. So if we come up right here, we'll see some really good examples of some of our igneous basalt. So looking in here, you can see that kind of dark black rock, very typical of the iron-rich basalt that was flowing through this area. When you're talking about molten rock, there are a couple categories that most people know of, known as lava and magma. The primary difference between the two is actually a difference in location. Magma is the molten rock that is deep below the crust of the earth. So go down about 50 miles, and that's where the pressure and temperatures get hot enough to partially melt the rock. Now, that molten magma is more buoyant, so it's kind of drawn back up towards the surface. And as that magma seeps closer and closer to the surface, it can sometimes be what's known as extrusive, which means it reaches the surface and erupts onto the surface of the earth. Once that magma erupts, that's when we would call it lava. So the primary difference between magma and lava is that magma is buried deep underground, whereas lava is the molten rock that is actively erupting onto the surface of the earth. One thing you'll almost certainly come in contact in the Coconino National Forest is this mossy substance growing on these basalt rocks. And what this is called lichen. And lichen is actually two different organisms that live in symbiosis together. Lichen is a combination of algae and fungus. And the algae provides energy for the organism. So the algae has chlorophyll in it that allows it to photosynthesize. But algae can't really survive well outside of water, and that's where the fungus comes in. The fungus is kind of like a scaffolding for the algae to attach onto. It provides the support for the organism and also absorbs any rainwater, and the two organisms coexist with one another in this symbiotic relationship. So by living together, these organisms can coexist and dominate these kind of rocky landscapes in northern Arizona.